Well, here we are in Empress Bar, reflecting back on the Bahrain Grand Prix. Paul Hadsley, how are you?
The adrenaline is flowing. I can't speak, that's how excited I am. The adrenaline is flowing through my system, and that usually means I've enjoyed a Grand Prix. There's either two reactions to me after a Grand Prix: adrenaline flowing, exciting, especially because I've had two colas. I'm excited, or complete anger and boredom because I've wasted 2 hours watching the parade. But I'm happy. So it wasn't the greatest Grand Prix. It's not a patch on China or Malaysia, but it was good. Better than I expected for Bahrain anyway, because we've already had processions really in the past. So I'm happy.
Great start to the race, but it more or less fizzled out, didn't it?
It did. I mean, there was a threat of, you kind of kept the faith that Kimi could do something about Sebastian, which is something that I wish could have happened. Again, like last weekend in China, we lost the classic finish because Button could have caught Rosberg based on McLaren data, and this weekend Kimi could have caught Sebastian, but both their tyres went off. They didn't risk the soft tyres. You want always in Formula 1 fans. I don't know if it's just me or it is something to do with us. We always pull for the underdog. We like the little guy beating the big guy. Sebastian is a champion. He's proved himself, but he is the dominant force at the moment. And we like Kimi Raikkonen, one world championship, and he's still calling him an underdog. It's funny, but yeah, you like to see pull for a little guy, and I thought we could have got a giant killing result this weekend. But once again, just like Perez, it didn't quite happen. But it still was great to watch.
Kimi Raikkonen and Lotus certainly made Vettel work hard for the win.
Yes, and that's what we want to see. It is the order of 2012, the structure of 2012. The only thing you can predict about 2012 is it's unpredictable. We thought Red Bull didn't have a winning car this year. They won. We definitely thought Ferrari didn't have a winning car. They won. We didn't expect Rosberg to win a race. I certainly didn't. He did. Yes, I'd rather have seen Lotus win that race with either Grosjean or Kimi. It could have happened to either one of them at various points of the race. In the end, we got more of a established, expected victory, but it doesn't take anything away from Sebastian. He drove the best race, dominated from pole, held off a good move. Looked like Kimi could have got past at one point, and he made sure to defend. That really probably won in the race. So it was fantastic. More like this in 2012, please.
And Sebastian and Red Bull, they always seem to excel at Bahrain, don't they?
Yes, they could have won in 2010, but they had an engine failure, so that handed it to Alonso. In 2009, yes, they were fighting with the Brauns, and Brauns in that early part of the year were unbeatable. But they've always gone well here. I would say from now on this will be their track if the track comes back. This is pretty much a guaranteed Red Bull victory no matter what happens. So yeah, but take nothing away from Sebastian. He's finally got a win this year in the fourth race, so good on him.
And just a quick word on Mark Webber as well. Another fourth place finish, and you ask for consistency, and Mark's just doing that.
If he continues finishing fourth while everyone else changes in front of him, okay, Hamilton finished third in the first three races too, but if he keeps finishing fourth and everyone else of him shuffles around and has good races and then bad races like Rosberg and Kimi last week was nowhere and then was up the front this weekend, then yeah, that could be consistency, could be the key. But he's done nothing spectacular this year, apart from overtaking Vettel last weekend in China on the last lap. I can't really think of Mark Webber getting on TV at all, really. He did. He did a wheelie, didn't he? that was good. So yes, consistency could be the key, but we want something a bit more from Webber. Otherwise, I think this might be his final year in Red Bull.
Based on what we've seen, you have to say Webber is taking the fight to Vettel.
Yes, but who's won? There's only one Red Bull driver that's won, and until the last race last year, I still can't really forgive him. He's a great guy, he's likeable, he's chirpy, but I can't really forgive him last year's Sebastian Vettel was dominating and Mark Webber was nowhere, fluffing the starts and only won the last race. If that was, the strength of McLaren is both drivers are strong. In Red Bull, one driver strong. In Ferrari, one driver strong. There's two different ways of going about it, but at least in Ferrari, you can say that they held back Massa for Alonso's benefit. Can you argue that in Red Bull? It's debatable. We know Vettel's the wunderkind, but Webber should be doing better, basically. And he's not. He's fluffing starts, and yes, I don't want to take anything away. He finished fourth, good result, but he should be doing better in my mind, and this is his last chance to prove that. Otherwise, I imagine Ricciardo should be sitting in the second Red Bull next year.
What difference a week can make. And we saw in China Kimi Raikkonen being second at one point and slipping down to 14th, and today finished second. Great result for Kimi.
Yeah. In a way, it was the mistake they made last weekend with the tyre strategy and the fact they fell so far back in the last few laps meant that they were too cautious this weekend. They didn't want to go for the win. They could have risked going for a soft tyre to Sebastian's hard, but they were playing cautious, and that made sure they stayed second. It's like Perez again, like, stay second, don't risk anything for the lead, which as a Formula 1 fan that kind of annoys me, but I'm not in the team and I'm not risking everything, you know. As an impartial observer with nothing to lose, I want Kimi to go hell for leather and take the victory. But the team don't think like me. They've got to play conservative strategy, and they did the right thing because they came home second and third. So, you know, they know more than me. But I would love to have seen him win.
And massive congratulations to Romain Grosjean on his first ever podium in Formula 1.
Yeah, it's great to see, really, because after his first 2 races, you're thinking, oh, you know, have they done it again? Is he going to be victim of the pressure and spin off in every race? But thank goodness he's put in a couple of great performances now, and yeah, okay, it didn't go too well at the end of the last week, but you could tell he was performing and he was on a confident level. And this weekend it came good. He was ahead of Kimi for quite a lot of the race, and then Kimi got by him. And, you know, I don't think that was a team decision. I think it's just both drivers were switched on enough to know not to hold each other up. And their enemies aren't each other, they're ahead. Great performance from Grosjean. Let's hope he can keep that going as we get into Europe.
Well, he wasn't able to win the race this time round, but Nico Rosberg was able to come home in 5th. Still good solid points for him. Yeah,
I mean, to say you got to finish. Consistency is the key. So it didn't look threatening too much for a victory, but he didn't look like he was going to fall off and finish last either. So some weekends it's going to be all about you, some weekends it's just about getting what you can. And he's being talked about, as we heard in the background, but it's not his weekend, but he did the best he could. So what more can you say about someone who finished in 5th? Nothing spectacular, but a solid result, as you would say. Bit of a cliche, but, you know, you've got to fall back on these things.
And not exactly the best of weekends for Michael Schumacher, even though he was able to finish 10th.
Yes, but he started in 22nd. What can you do? He got a point, which is mainly because Button conked out at the end, but he went forwards again. The Mercedes wasn't the car to have this weekend, so he wasn't going to win the race from back there. He got a point, probably best he could do. We can't really say much. You didn't see him much on TV, but I guess 22nd to 10th is a good result. That's more than most people ever took, so what can you say?
Well, the week didn't start off in the best possible way for Force India, with 2 of the mechanics going home after what happened on Wednesday. But Paul Di Resta, a strong 6th place finish, great result for him and the team.
Yeah, and they came back of the invisible qualifying session they had. But I think that's still, I have to say, very petty of the TV crew and the governing body and whoever made that decision to sort of, you know, they thought about the team first, and good on them. Put in their interests and the morale of their team members over the financial interests of the sport. So, how dare they think of their team members first instead of the money in the sport? And that's why they got punished for, and I can't believe it.
But you could totally understand why the mechanics would go home after, what happened.
Yeah. They're spooked. Okay, they weren't targeted when whatever happened. There was a firebomb, I read, but it wasn't like someone saw their Force India logo. I think they're in a minibus that wasn't branded. Yes. That makes sense. But there was an incident, and they were caught up in it. I mean, we've had incidents in Birmingham last year, and I've been caught up in, it happens. It's not like this is unique to Bahrain, but they were spooked because of the incident in question, so the team wanted to reassure them, like a protective parent. Good on them, I think. That's made me like Force India more than their great performance on the track. But the way that the TV crew reacted by cutting them out of qualifying, I think, is extremely petty. And sometimes you have to put your team first. We saw that in America in 2005. Sometimes the team, you have to think about your team. We've seen that in the regulations when people would, if they weren't getting a points finish, would pull in and save their engines. Not everything is for the good of the sport. Sadly, it's not communism. This is Formula 1, where it's the Shark Tank. This is the Piranha Den, whatever you want to call it. Whatever metaphor you think, I'm sure I'll think about 10 more in a minute. But they're thinking of their team first, and they can't be punished for that. Even if they pulled out, which was rumoured, I would still be supporting them. And I'm sure if they had done that, they wouldn't have been seen for the rest of the season. But they've got to think of safety first. To punish the team for playing safety first is extremely disconcerting. at the very least, if not disheartening.
Yeah, absolutely. And safety is more important than sport.
Exactly. I mean, this is a Formula. Don't forget, this is Formula 1. That's now. I read just before the race. He's not butchering, but is going to be sorting out Monaco and moving the Tech Pro barriers back and flattening the bumps. So because Perez's accident last year, they've seen the situation. It's caused trouble, and they're doing the best they can to make it safer. Bahrain was a situation that was coming, you could say 6 months in advance, a year in advance, because last year's race was cancelled. Was a situation where they could have changed things in the name of safety and didn't. And that's the question you've got to ask yourself is, why didn't they change things based on the predictions? This is safety first in Formula 1. Some people say it's become too safe. You talk to Sterling Moss about that and see what he says. But why would they deliberately try and go into such a situation when they didn't need to?
Okay, well, coming on to McLaren quickly. Lewis Hamilton was only able to finish 8th after qualifying 2nd, and Button having to retire as well from the end of the race. Not the best of weekends for the team.
No, not at all. But, this is just to say, if Red Bull are becoming on form now, why McLaren wasting these opportunities in the early races to get a points lead and get bank some points and get ahead of Red Bull? So when things sway back in their favour, they're still ahead. But it's been a terrible couple of weeks for McLaren. They lost a chance of victory in China due to a pit stop. Lewis Hamilton lost any kind of race today, whatever he would have got, probably a podium. Optimistically thinking though, but he probably lost that on a podium because of the 17 seconds he lost in pit lane. It wasn't just one mistake, it was all 3 of his pit stops had an issue. So it sounds like there's a mechanical issue on his car not taking the thread of the tyres or something. And then even Button himself got a puncture and had to come in at the end. So it's a terrible race for McLaren, and when they should be banking points, if Red Bull are now coming on form. So Lewis Hamilton put in a great overtaking manoeuvre. I'm sure we're coming to that quickly, but yeah, that terrible work for McLaren. They need to regroup and probably fire some people before they get to Spain in the pit lane, or who made the cars anyway. We'll see.
It was Button last week and Hamilton this week.
Yeah, and Hamilton reacts to these days. But I'm sure the only reason he drove right off the track to overtake Rosberg because he's furious about losing time in the pit stop. So this is not how to manage drivers either. They both seem disheartened by the lack of speed in the car this weekend. They've got 2 weeks now before Spain to regroup and test, and hopefully there'll be some updates and they'll be bounced back in Spain. That's all you can hope for. Otherwise, this isn't the season it looked to be in Australia.
And we come on to Ferrari. Fernando Alonso finished 7th, and Felipe Massa picked up his first points of the season in 9th. No doubt that'll be a confidence boost for him. But, Paul, for a team like Ferrari, they should be fighting for wins, shouldn't they?
Yeah, but I think they've already resigned to the fact they're not this year, unless there's another wet race. We could get to Spa and it's wet again and all bets are off. But they've decided this year is more of a development year for next year. I think even now, the car's so bad that only Alonso can drag it into Quali 3. And, Massa, he did a good performance this weekend, but he still didn't get into Quali 3 and Alonso's faster. So, yeah, Massa did a better performance than expected. He was closer to Alonso, so that's good. But Ferrari, I think, have lowered their expectations this year, so they'll be happy with any points they get.
And they promised upgrades for the Spanish Grand Prix, so it'll be interesting to see where Ferrari are in Spain.
Well, Alonso always upped his game in Spain. He's led the race before, when even off the grid when he had no chance of winning it and that sort of thing. Yes, all eyes will be on Alonso in Spain, so he'll be pushing like only he can to motivate a team to get some improvements for his home race, one of his 2 home races. But still, I reckon they will take a step forward relative. I mean, look out Force India and look out the midfield teams. Toro Rosso up in 6th in qualifying, so Ferrari will probably make a step forwards. So they've got to look out, because Alonso, at least in Spain, will be pushing for everything he's got.
Never underestimate Ferrari and Alonso.
And the home crowd advantage. Don't forget what Mansell used to say about that. So yeah, there'll be lots. All eyes will be on Alonso in Spain, and he will feel the pressure.
Okay, Paul, well, thank you for coming in to review the Bahrain Grand Prix. Yes, Formula 1 in pubs as well. Thank you for letting us come. Well, that's the end of the podcast. If you want to react to the Grand Prix, and you can send us a tweet at Formula 1 FanCast, and you can also tweet at Paul Hadsley and at Baggies20. From me and Paul, adios.
Goodbye. Thank you.